Previously, on Any Good.
Just give me a sign. Do I stop? Should I keep going? Is there a movie I'm missing? What does it mean? No, that's gonna matter in about 10 minutes, because if I don't defuse this bomb, it's gonna blow us all to hell.
And now, the thrilling conclusion.
Something about this case stunk to high heaven, and not unlike what you usually find at the bottom of your shoe. But this stunk in a whole new way, Jack. I don't know if it was an answered prayer for the man upstairs, or maybe the fella down below trying to drag me down for all the Brunos and droppers I sent to their big sleep, or for the twists and tomatoes I left with a broken heart, or for using too much 40 slang in my detective subplot to the point where I don't remember what I'm saying. Just doesn't make any sense. This is meant to be an editorial on the picture show. Maybe I lost sight of that. Yeah, maybe I lost sight of a lot of things. Is that why she took the kids? Or were you just too much of a rube to let the greatest dame in the world put those pins to good use and walk out on you? Still, all I can remember is that one name. Andy. It runs through my head like the bangtails at Belmont. Who is this Andy? Just a young kid maybe, who was trying to straighten up and fly right. Now he's out there, somewhere. Lost, shoeless. Well, I want you. I was behind the 8 ball in the worst way.
It's a child, you dope. Find the film with a child named Andy.
Who said that? Perhaps it was my conscience, or the devil on my shoulder saying, "Have another drink, Tommy. Go listen to some rock and roll." Sure enough, story checked out. Mighty fine detective work.
I've got you now, Joy Boy.
After moving to a new city, young Andy Berkeley receives a special present from his mother, a seemingly innocent Woody doll. That becomes his best friend. When the doll suddenly takes on a life of its own, Andy unites with other neighbourhood children to stop the sinister toy from wreaking bloody havoc.
So you may have seen the start of a new series, a series look, where we were looking at the Child's Play films. And this remake of the first film is controversial for quite a few reasons. But what we got was not what I expected at all. In fact, I don't think it's a Child's Play film, for a lot of reasons. I don't think this is especially spoilery, because the film essentially opens with this, but Chucky's origins are completely different. Chucky turns evil in this one because a disgruntled worker at the factory making these dolls removes all the safety protocols. So there's no serial killer, no Chelsea Ray, no voodoo. So all the supernatural aspects are gone to make this more of a technology-based horror film about the dangers of technology in modern society, which is not a bad angle to take. You know, Black Mirror has basically buttered its bread with that topic. But if there's meant to be a deeper message to that, it isn't exactly clear, aside from just technology bad. That's far from the only change in the film, though. The biggest change is probably actually the tone of the movie. While the original Child's Play was, of course, a bit tongue-in-cheek, it was undoubtedly a slasher horror. This is basically a black comedy. And it's only Child's Play, like, name only. They took the character names, they took the killer doll concept, but the characters are completely different. Pretty much everything is completely different, and well, I admit I'm kind of grateful for that, because if you're going to remake a film, why just do the same thing? I don't think all the changes they made were for the best. As much as this movie is more self-referential and humorous, I didn't think it was that funny overall. It kind of reminded me of Halloween from last year, where it was to a certain degree paying homage to the series, but it was also sort of, you know, poking fun at the corniness and silliness of it all. But albeit this one was a lot more comedic than Halloween, which I guess is probably why it makes sense to cast someone like Aubrey Plaza, who's normally best known for comedic performances. She plays Karen Berkeley. I thought she gave a very good performance. It was very enjoyable. She's going a bit against type here, playing a young mother, but I thought the chemistry between her and her son was fantastic. I thought she gave a very enjoyable performance, as much as there wasn't much to that character. The lead role, though, of course, is the character of Andy Berkeley, played by Gabriel Bateman. Andy's a lot older in this one than he is in the other films, and he also has a lot more screen time, but I felt that Bateman did a fantastic job in this role. I'm not familiar with his work in general, but I thought he gave a very, very good measured performance as Andy. Then, of course, we have Chucky, who is normally named for Charles D. Ray, although I said already there is no Charles in this movie, so the doll just arbitrarily decides he's named Chucky, which is played for a laugh. I actually thought it was pretty funny, playing with your expectations a bit. The design of the doll is very, very different. It's more modern looking, and of course that makes sense with this new technological tone. It works though. It's actually a very believable design, and it's kind of scary in a more realistic sense without being over the top. Both designs of the doll work. The original one works as much as it can be over the top. This one works because it's pretty subtle, more than you would expect. Of course, regardless of the design, Chucky doesn't work without the voice to back him up. We have Mark Hamill voicing this time, and I'll admit I was a little bit concerned, if only because I was worried he might just do his Joker voice, or maybe, you know, do something quite similar to Brad Dourif. But I'm happy to say he gives us something completely new that really, really works. It's not a voice that's deliberately sinister. It's a voice that's sometimes sincere and so robotic and seemingly calculating that it works as being creepy on a whole new level. It's a very original voice performance for Chucky, and it works very, very well. The dynamic between Andy and Chucky is very, very different to this one, in a way I didn't expect, that made it a little bit more enjoyable, in that Chucky genuinely wants to be Andy's friend. And at times, you can even understand why he's doing evil things or killing because of him trying to get close to Andy. It's a different dynamic that I didn't expect coming into this movie, that made things a bit more refreshing and a bit more interesting. But is it any good? Yes and no. It's great for being something fresh and new when really you wouldn't expect it to be. It's a comedy, but I didn't find it that funny. As a horror, I didn't think it was that effective at times. There's a bit of an over-reliance on jump scares. If you like creative kills, there's not that many of them in there either. It's a strange contradiction of a film, because you expect it to be a remake of Child's Play, and it's not, and I'm glad it's not. But what we got isn't necessarily great, and in fact I would have preferred a bit more of the familiar elements, even though normally that's what you complain about with horror remakes. You know, we hear about action movies a lot. It's a turn off your brain movie, and I think this is a turn off your brain horror movie, to be honest. You know, if you overthink about it, or if you pull on that loose thread, the whole thing will unravel. But I did find myself just mindlessly enjoying it, to be honest. I liked that it embraced new ideas, even if it wasn't always successful. It at least gave me something to get interested and invested in. You know, if this was just Child's Play again, would have been pretty obvious where it was going, would have understood what was going to happen. This one gave me enough new elements, albeit they weren't always successful, that it kept me on my toes and kept me enjoying the movie. So if you're looking for a fun, not so serious horror movie with a degree of sort of humour and self-awareness, you could do much worse. This is a decent movie. This is much better than it has any right to be.
My buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy. Wherever I go, he goes. My buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy.
So that was Child's Play, starring a kid named Andy.
Review Toy Story 4, you moron!
Guess I could review that too.
When a new toy called Forky joins Chucky and the gang, a road trip alongside old and new friends reveals how big the world can be for a toy.
I think I was in the same group as the majority of people, in that I felt that the Toy Story trilogy was near perfect, and it felt like a real conclusion. So I was a bit nonplussed about the idea of Toy Story 4 being made at all. But I'm happy to say, and quite shocked at how much I like this film. Narratively, it really feels like an epilogue to the first three films, in that we catch up with Bo, and it's about Woody, who of course we've always known as Andy's toy, settling into this life as the toy of a new kid, Bonnie. It's a very existential film that kind of asks questions about life and its meaning. And Pixar have never really shied away from those deep themes or questions, but they really went for it here, and as a result the film soars. The film really focuses on Woody this time around, and it's basically his story. I won't give away too much, but it finds him questioning life and the principles of which he's kind of built his life around. Most of these questions are brought up by the return of Bo Peep, who of course was not in the last film. And it's a very emotional film that really pulls on the heartstrings, and there's a few reasons for that. For one reason anyway, these are characters that we've now been following for nearly 25 years. And we've seen them grow throughout each entry. The other thing is that I think this film goes a lot deeper into the actual toys and the characters. More so than the previous ones. It makes for a very, very tender experience. And what we're left with as a result is part love story and something quite reminiscent of a sort of coming of age story. in that it's about a character going on an emotional journey, questioning themselves and trying to find themselves. And it works fantastically well. As you might expect from these films, there's a lot of new characters. Probably most pivotal to the plot is Forky, who is a kind of a toy spork that Bonnie creates. He drives a lot of the existential questions in the film. He's voiced by Tony Hale, very funny character, very unique and very different to what we've gotten before. Maybe it makes you question the laws and the logic of the Toy Story universe, but nonetheless, very, very entertaining addition to the cast. Ducky and Bunny, voiced by Key and Peele. Was kind of worried that they would be over-relied on for comedic relief, but of course I was wrong again. They're really well done, quite entertaining. They don't rely on them too much, but the scenes they are in there are very good. One of their recurring bits had me in stitches. They were fantastic. If there is a misfire with the new characters, I would probably give it to Giggle McDimples. Just not a very memorable character, doesn't have as much to do. I think it doesn't help that out of the new characters she's not as unique or as interesting. There's not a fresh dynamic there as much as there is with the other characters. Finally, Duke Kaboom, voiced by Keanu Reeves, steals every scene he's in. He's like an Evel Knievel stunt cycle that's been broken. Very humorous, but also very different to what we've had in previous Toy Story films. He steals the show. Probably the highlight of the movie as far as the new characters go. Then, of course, we have our villain. Now, the Toy Story villains in general are normally pretty straightforward. It's just things like, oh, well, you can't trust those kids, you're better off with me, and oh, turns out a kid abandoned me, so you know. This character is a lot more developed, I'm happy to say. Gabby Gabby, voiced by Christina Hendricks, is to a certain degree sympathetic, but it doesn't take away from her sinister side, which is important. I always thought a good villain is a villain where you can kind of understand why they are the way they are, as if they're not entirely wrong, that they're somewhat justifiable as a villain. And this doesn't excuse all their actions in the movie, of course, but it does make for a very compelling, different villain. And it's definitely, maybe even the best villain we've had in a Toy Story film so far. And her army of dummies is pretty creepy as well. From a technical standpoint, the animation on the film is flawless. There's a scene in the rain towards the beginning that's just amazing. You know, they always say that's the tricky thing to animate. This feels like Pixar's just showing off, being like, oh, you think this is hard? Well, that's how good it can be. It's gorgeous. Down to the lighting, the colours, it's perfect. I mean, just as a minor example, there's a cat in this film, and I actually sat up out of my seat being like, oh my god, that was a real cat. For just a second. Took my brain a while to click. That's how realistic it was. It's a gorgeous looking film. Maybe Pixar's best so far. The music, naturally Randy Newman is back. He's so pivotal to these movies. No shock there that he has returned. He brings a sort of melancholy charm to the film when he needs to, and it's perfectly suited as it has been in previous entries. The movie in general is pretty funny. There's a lot of moments that got me to laugh quite a bit. I did at least initially think it wasn't as funny as the previous entries, but I could be wrong there now looking back. I think maybe it's as funny, if not funnier. And of course, this being a Pixar film, this being a Toy Story film, those funny moments are broken up with emotional beats that land incredibly well. I do have some minor complaints though. For one, if you were hoping to see the rest of the cast, you're going to be let down. I mentioned already that this is Woody's story and that the new characters are very well implemented. That is sort of done at the expense of the cast characters we already know. No one draws the shorter straw there than Buzz, who really kind of gets sidelined in this movie, and it's sort of a shame. And obviously this is Woody's film. This is about, you know, Woody's kind of arc and his closure. And Woody is the main character, but it's kind of disappointing that in a film that sort of has a sense of finality to it, that we didn't get anything more on the relationship of Woody and Buzz, because that's been so pivotal to these movies. Just, it's a little bit of a shame that they didn't get as much time as they could have, or that we didn't get as much Buzz as we could have. And of course that goes for the rest of the characters, but I felt like Buzz is far more pivotal to the series than them. I did think the film also took a bit of time to get going. At least initially, I was like, this is fine, but was it really worth ruining the ending of Toy Story 3? Now, again, the film eventually finds its footing, but that was just my thoughts initially, and the last act in particular I thought was very, very good, so it's excusable. In fact, I thought the ending was quite good, but I I will say the film is a little bit predictable. After hearing people talk about this film and the buzzwords people are using, I was able to predict the ending pretty easily. I'm sure most people will. And even though it's tabby predictable, it's well executed, so it doesn't take away from my enjoyment too much, but it's just a minor quibble. Finally, while this is a great entry and a worthy one into the Toy Story series, the same sense of finality that was there at the end of Toy Story 3 isn't really there. I could see there being a Toy Story 5, I'll put it that way. And there is a bit of trepidation that they go back to the well too many times, but of course a lot of us thought that this time, and they pulled it off very well. Like I said, this is a fantastic entry. It made me happy, it made me sad, I laughed, nearly cried. Didn't, but I nearly did. It's a brilliant film, and this is probably one of the most consistent, at least, or one of the best even, in film series going, ever. If you've invested in Toy Story up to this point, this is a very satisfying chapter in that story.
Drove in through the morning fog. Hey there, Rover. Come on over.
There you go, 2 films with a kid named Andy, and they both revolve around talking toys, which is weird, right? Anyway, I guess that's mystery solved. Hey, what was that in the intro about a bomb?